Hello and welcome to another video about radios, and today we're going to focus on the Roberts Rambler, and I've got a few for you to see here, and there's a couple others that I'll show as well, and some brochures. So the Roberts Rambler was introduced in 1975, and this little aqua blue one here was one of the first. And then they introduced other models through the years. So Roberts Radio had a reputation for making portable radios, one of the slogans being Roberts Radio, the finest of all portables. Now the company was founded in 1932 by Harry Roberts and his partner Leslie Bidmead. So Harry Roberts was the sales guy of the company really, and Leslie Bidmead was the brains behind the company, the radio engineer. And they founded the company in 1932, originally in Soho in London, and had a little factory, and produced a few radios a week in the style of a suitcase. And so that was only 10 years after broadcasting had started in the UK in 1922. And during the war they made Morse code, things for Morse code. And eventually they moved to East Moseley in Sussex and had a factory there. Later moving to another factory as they increased production in West Moseley. So then they were turning out lots of radios, and one of the radios that really put them on the market was the Roberts R66, which was a little valve portable in the shape of a handbag, designed apparently on, I think it's Harry Roberts' wife's handbag. But that was a very good set, very practical, and eventually it moved into the transistor era with the RT1 in the late 1950s, and then into the 1960s we had the R200, which was a little portable radio, again in the shape of a handbag, but a lot smaller than the R66, and that's sold in bucket loads. So Roberts Radio continued through the 1960s, 1970s, looking at these radios, which this is the sort of style of Roberts Radio in the 70s, with the wooden end caps and the Rexine covering and the sort of bright metal grille and the tuning scale on top and the push buttons. And then into the 1980s, and that was an era where radio companies in the UK really struggled against imports from the Far East, and a lot of them went pop, but Roberts soldiered on. And then in 1989, a Martini did an advert, and they had in the advert the little R200, and it'd been long discontinued, but people on seeing the radio wanted more, so they contacted Roberts, could they still buy them, which they couldn't. So Roberts got wise to this, and they took an original radio circuit they had and cased it in a case, wooden case, very well built, and marketed it as the Roberts Revival 200 initially, and they just made a few batches. But as most of the people know watching this video, the Revival range has been a great success for Roberts. And as Roberts continued through the 1990s, I'm not sure, early in the 1990s, they're still struggling, so Glenn Dimplex took the company over. And they've continued with the Roberts brand, developing it, and continuing looking at the past catalogue and bringing radios in and looking forward, moving with technology, being one of Britain's first DAB radio manufacturers. And they continue today. So just before we go and look at the Ramblers, because that's the focus of this video, I thought I'd compare the sound of an old R707, this is the big one here, against the latest Roberts Rambler, which is this little Roberts Rambler Uno. A very small little radio, but it does pack quite a punch for its size. So we'll just do that, and then we'll move on to the video looking at the Rambler range.
The impact to the community, we fully recognise the impact there, and the message we sent out that obviously keeping doors and windows closed, and anybody suffering from any underlying health conditions to get medical advice. We're working as quick as we can to get this fire.
So that's the R707.
Husband Eric died in April
And this
2021
is the little
after
Rambler
7
Uno.
weeks in intensive care at the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff.
It's been really difficult going from being with my children 24/7 to then telling them, listen, I'm in the kitchen, I'm cooking your dinner. After you've finished your dinner, that's it. I've got to go and study.
Sport now, and the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow takes place tonight, with 114 Welsh athletes across 10 sports preparing to compete. In cricket, Welsh Fire began their 100 campaign yesterday.
So I think you can hear it's a good performer. It lacks some of the depth of tone, I think, of the grand old R707, but obviously being in a much smaller cabinet with a much smaller speaker, and the R707 being in a large wooden cabinet with a large oval speaker, it's not going to compete with that. But it does sound good, in my opinion, and it sounds very good as well with music. Unfortunately, we can't demonstrate that due to copyright. So we're going to look at the Rambler range and some of my radios. So please stay tuned in if you're interested in this subject, and I'll show you my other radios. Okay, so we'll start off with these two little radios. So these radios in front of us date to 1975, and one of the identifying features of these radios is the push buttons, which are oblong in shape. Not long after, I should imagine in the year 75, or not long after, they changed over to round push buttons. So these two are easily identified as early sets, and the other thing that identifies them as early sets is the serial numbers. So as you can see, they're a very compact radio, quite lightweight. Well, they are until we put a PP9 battery into them, which adds some weight to the radio. But it's that classic look of the 1970s Roberts radio with the wooden end caps, the metal grille, and the Rexine covering with the Perspex tuning scale on the top. So to switch the radio on, you select the band. So basically, medium wave.
He was a wicked carpenter, but he'd done it for years. So he started signing up for marathons. He was clearly needing a bit of something else. So when he landed this job, training future chippies at the college, it felt right. Now he's made up with work again.
So you can see, quite good with volume and quite a good tone being in a wooden cabinet. And there's no point going on to long wave anymore, because sadly we've recently lost BBC Radio 4 long wave 198 in the UK, so it's completely silent. But you can actually get some little pantry transmitters, I've noticed on eBay, with the long wave band. So I haven't got one of those yet, but it might be worth a try. And you could play long wave back through that, through Bluetooth.
Neither of you had trouble holding your heads up for the entirety of the 3 hours of
So basically I can pick up 3 stations now, medium wave.
When I see that kind of running time,
BBC Radio 5 and BBC Talk Sport.
but you know what, it really got me into the running time well. I wasn't bored, it's an incredible. I watched it in the BFI IMAX.
Path blocked, Wetherby, junction 46 to 47, Allerton Park, Slough, at the scene of a collision.
And I can also pick up Max Radio.
Given to the Extradition Act 2026 and the Income Tax Act 2026. And furthermore, honourable members, I can advise that the 10 remaining acts listed on the...
So that's a valuable station to me, because Max Radio Gold play a lot of the old tunes from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And yeah, so we'll have a little look inside the set. So just to turn it off, put it on back into the station.
Aware.org.
There's the off button, and the radio's turned off again. It looks quite nice in red. So I'll just pause the video while they take their bass off, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we've got the bass off now, and you can see it's quite neat and compact in there. A genuine wooden case, a nice little metal case speaker, and the PP9 battery, which is a battery I've made up with 6 AA batteries inside it out of an old PP9 case. So I've done nothing to this radio. It's all original capacitors and everything, and it works quite well. And this is the bass, which I have the little turntable on, and in good old Roberts style I have the little plate with the serial number. As you can see, it's 4416, so it's quite an early production model. So imagine in the first few weeks or so. And we'll have a little look at the nice classic 1970s sort of an aqua green blue colour. It doesn't come across on the camera quite as green as it looks in real life. So again, this is another early set from 1975 with the oblong buttons, and I think this was quite a common colour initially. I think they dropped it within the first year or so. Again, we've got the turntable and the wooden bass and the BBC One, the station upgrade with long wave on Radio 4, now long gone. And it's basically the same inside, so there's no point doing any more with this one. We've heard the other one. So then we'll have a quick look at the later Rambler with the round push buttons. Again, all the functions are the same. To switch it on, you press one of the medium wave, long wave buttons, and off with the off button, volume control and tuning. It's quite a nice looking white, which is quite unusual really. Again with its end caps. I'll put a battery in this and see if it still works. I've not used it for a while. So I've just put a battery in the little white Rambler and it's not working very well at all. The usual thing with all radios is capacitors, but it seems to be something with a tuning capacitor here, as it just seems to go off. But there's a little difference inside this radio, so I'm going to take the bass off and we'll look inside, see if you can spot what that difference is. Okay, so I've got the bass off the little white Rambler now with the round push buttons, and I've got the very early Rambler with the oblong push buttons, which came out in 1975. And if we look inside, you can see there is a difference. And basically that difference is the speaker. So on the original Rambler, it's a metal case speaker, and on the later one, they put a cheap little plastic speaker in it. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this radio, and there is a difference in quality of sound with a plastic speaker. So unfortunately, I couldn't demonstrate that. I should have tested it before I did the video actually, but that's me. So now we'll have a look at the later Rambler models I have in my collection, and we'll also have a look at some of the catalogues. Okay, so the original Roberts Rambler radio that was released in 1975 continued in production until around 1983. And then in 1984, Roberts introduced the Rambler 2. So the Rambler 2, again, is a very similar radio to the Rambler, the original Rambler, but it now has a tone control, as you can see here on the right. You've got long wave and medium wave, and the on-off button is still on the top of the panel there, with the volume control and the tuning. Now, this radio is not running very well neither. I can imagine its capacitor problems. But it is an example of the Rambler 2. And again, when we look inside, it has the same plastic speaker. And I don't know when Roberts dropped the metal speaker, case speaker. But they added a tone control on this, and maybe that was the problem. They were getting complaints from customers, so they put the tone control on it. But unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this very well, because the sound isn't good. You can see it's very distorted. Okay, so this is inside the Roberts Rambler 2. Again, you see the little plastic speaker. I just don't know why Roberts did that. Obviously trying to cut costs. I mean, they're still made in a nice wooden case with all the quality trimmings. And they do all that and put a little cheap old plastic speaker inside it. And this is the base. As you can see, the serial numbers have gone up a little bit since the other sets, with a turntable. So now I'm going to look at a radio that I haven't got in my collection, but I do have a Roberts catalogue showing it. So that is the Roberts RT22, which is a VHF medium wave long wave model introduced in 1979. And looking at the radio museum, online radio museum, it ran from 1979 to 1982. So we'll just get the catalogue out and look at that. So this is my Roberts radio catalogue, which has an illustration of the RT22 and some little information about it. The catalogue dated, I wouldn't know, I can't identify any date on it, but I would imagine it's 79, 80, something like that. You can see some of the tabletop models that Roberts produced at the time. And then we come to the Rambler. So the Rambler I've been demonstrating to you. And if you pause, you can read information on that. And then it's the little RT22. So really this was quite an upgrade for the radio because it was now VHF, FM. Basically in the same size case. And then we can see the classic R606 mains battery radio. Okay, so the next radio in my Rambler collection is the RFM3. So the RFM3 dates around 1984, and I think according to the Radio Museum it ran until 1993. So I can demonstrate this one working, but the tuning capacitor is a little bit scratchy, but I've got it tuned into Radio 4 at the moment.
About half an hour, found an email address, emailed them, and I got a response, but it was I think it was an automated response saying that they were very, very busy with inquiries and they'd get back to me. That sort of didn't really ring true because I didn't get a confirmation from them. So I contacted PayPal immediately and raised it with them, and eventually the PayPal came back to me on the 9th of July to say they'd refunded me. Now that's not the end of the story, and sadly.
It sounds quite well, but if you notice on the top panel with the push buttons, they've dropped the tone control as they've added the VHF band to this set. So again, we'll have a little look inside this one. And sadly, Roberts continued with the little tinny plastic, well, can't call it tinny being plastic, but it sounds tinny compared to the original Rambler, plastic speaker. And you can see that they've got a very durable, long telescopic aerial has been added to the radio. The other difference is the actual carrying handle now, which is a metal one rather than the carrying strap as fitted to the earlier sets. As you can see, it's got a nice telescopic aerial and all the classic features of a 1970s portable Roberts radio, and the very compact port, small size. Just something to mention, it's just jogged me a memory with the telescopic aerial. I've seen it said on the internet that the Roberts Rambler was commonly used in British prisons. And the reason being that the original Rambler was used was because it didn't have a telescopic aerial, so it couldn't be used as a weapon. So I have seen that in a few different places on the internet. And I've also seen that somebody's sort of commented that they stopped using them because of the PP9 batteries, which are quite large and heavy in size, and they could have been used as a weapon. But I don't know, that's just things I've seen on the internet. So we'll continue and look at other models. So we're well into the 1990s now, and there's two sets here that I don't have in my collection. So the first set is the R717, and according to the Online Radio Museum, that came out in 1993. And it's again, it's very reminiscent of the later sets in the 1990s, where a lot of the chrome features are removed from the radios and they become more plasticky in appearance. A lot of the bright work has gone, including the knobs, the carrying handle end caps, and the grille. So this is the R717, and if you want to pause, you can read the features of that set. And then the R757, which came out in 1996, according to the Online Radio Museum. And you have a choice of very bland looking colours when you look back to the 1970s and the colour choices you had in those days. And again, there's a lot of black plastic on it now. We still have the wooden end caps. And that's the features of the R757. So we're now going to move into a more modern era. And I have a couple of sets from that era as we move into the DAB era. Okay, so we're now into the DAB age of the Roberts Rambler. This one is in my own collection, but I've done a little research and it looks like the first Roberts Rambler DAB was model number RD76, which came out around 2007, because I found a review on that radio at that period in time. And this is the Roberts Rambler DAB Plus, and I guesstimate it came out about 2010 or around that sort of period. And this radio basically I've made out of two radios. So the actual radio workings is a DAB Plus, an earlier set. And then the actual casing came from a DAB Plus and a Bluetooth, which was a radio I picked up with a very good case, but it didn't work. So I had the DAB Plus, which had a poor case, so I basically married the two together. It's not something that makes it a historic radio, but it's a functional radio. I use it quite a lot. And as you can see now, there's a lot of plastic on the top. You've got the digital display. We've got back the metal grille with a bright finish and the little wooden end caps. And I've got the aerial up at the moment, so I don't want to show you the base without bending that. Well, that's the base of the radio. So I'll switch it on. I've got Radio 4 tuned in.
About it. It told us that call-outs for rats are indeed rising. Now it represents 1,100 companies right across the UK. Rent-A-Kill, one of the biggest of them, said calls for help with rats shot up 11% in June compared with the month before. Nick Robertson runs HF Pest Control. It's based in Tunbridge in Kent and it covers London.
So it's got quite a good tone to it.
For help getting rid of rats.
Not a lot of features. A nice clear display.
Hi, Nick, can you hear me?
Alarm functions.
I can just about hear you. Gone really quiet.
Oh, good. Sorry, you're back now.
And then, as I said, the very similar radio, the Roberts later added Bluetooth function to it, which makes it even more useful.
Call-outs for help getting rid of rats?
Yeah, well, the call-outs have gone.
I'm quite pleased with this one. There's lots available that you can still pick up.
What sort of places are rats attracted to?
Amazing ways.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of this little video on the Roberts Rambler.
No, this can't be right. There's a spider that died.
One of the radios that I did own later sold was the Roberts Rambler BT stereo, so Bluetooth stereo radio, in the same colour as this one you can see in front. And just turn this down a bit. On seeing it advertised, I thought, wow, stereo, Bluetooth would be fantastic. But the sound that came out of it was very tinny in my opinion, so I wasn't happy with that radio, so I soon moved that on. But recently, I think it's around about the beginning of 2025, Roberts have come out with this little Rambler here, known as called the Rambler Uno. As you can see, in comparison to the original Roberts Rambler, it's shrunk in size. It's even smaller. But sound-wise, it sounds so much better. So I'll turn it up a bit so we can hear the tones.
If it was absorbed through my skin, like some
So
poisons are, aren't
Radio
they?
4
And it gets into our
Extra.
bloodstream that way. But I really don't like the idea of a soul coming out of somebody else's orifice and going into mine without there being any kind of, what's that thing sheep go through?
Unusual subject.
Like a dip. You know, when they walk through Dettol and stuff. If that sort of a thing happens, I wouldn't mind that, but I'm not having it straight from somebody's,
So,
especially now with COVID.
in comparison with my other Roberts Rambler Dab,
Quoting Plato and Aristotle
Dab Plus, the display is quite small on this one. And as you're getting towards my age, you might struggle with it a little bit, but that's a little downside to it.
Then is any of the other stuff even relevant? I would argue.
But I've got to add, I'm very impressed with this radio. It's very compact, carry around. It sounds good on music as well, but I can't. It's got a good bass and treble tones.
Hello?
I can't demonstrate
Hi,
that.
Dad, it's Bridge.
All right.
Yeah.
Well done.
You know the song?
Yes.
I've just got a couple more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got the little wooden end
They
caps.
said that if you go into these sort of things, you go mad.
It's a sealed unit,
Trying to work it out.
so we can't look inside unless you've stripped it.
I'm in the wardrobe.
And
It's
at the bottom there, I'll just pause it in a minute and show you where the batteries go.
Anyway, I've sent you all the recordings now.
You've got the little
I'll send you
telescopic
the
aerial.
conclusion tomorrow. I just want to tie up everything
So
and show that we've
there's a
got through
range of
both
Ramblers
maybe.
available from Roberts at the moment. So this is the Uno, so this is the cheapest one, and this one costs $129.99 currently on the Roberts website. And then there's the classic radio, which is just basically a larger version of this with DAB and Bluetooth, and that one's $179.99. And then there's the Rambler Max, which is basically an internet radio, DAB and FM, and that one's $199.99. So the actual Rambler as a model range continues, and it's still a very popular radio in the Roberts catalogue.
Did I tell you, Carl, my friend?
And it was born in 1975, so that's quite a thing. And as you can see, with the 1975 radio and the current radio, they're still very similar in styling with the end caps. The little one here, the Uno, has no handle on it, but the Classic and the Max does have a carrying handle. So I hope you enjoyed watching my video on the Roberts Rambler. It doesn't cover everything, but it gives you an idea of the progress of the Rambler as it's gone through the years, and the fact that it's still a current model in the Roberts catalogue. Please feel free to comment and add anything that you know about the Rambler. Comment on your own radio if you've got one, or if this inspires you to buy a Roberts Rambler, modern or classic. I mean classic as in the original, not in the classic range that's available at the moment. Although I'm sure that's quite a good radio, given how good the sound is on this little Uno. I'm sure it does sound very well. So that's it for now. Please tune in again for more videos on the Radio Win channel. Thank you for watching.